What's up guys, my name is Ace and welcome back to The Breakdown, the series where I analyze gameplay to help you improve. In today's episode, we're going to be analyzing a Domination gameplay on the map Solar from Dragon Master 214. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so let's hop right into the class that he uses for this gameplay. And for once, this class is actually what I would consider to be a flawless class. There's nothing wrong with this class at all. You could, of course, tweak things and move things around based on your own personal preference, but these are all excellent perks, attachments, and score streaks that he's using on this class. As far as preference goes though, like for instance, I would probably take off the stock and use the quick draw grip instead, but that's just because my playstyle is better suited to that. I like snapping between targets really quickly, snapping from one target to another, rather than strafing in a gunfight, so that's why I prefer quick draw. But for him and his playstyle, the stock works great. So that's really the only adjustment that I could really see to make to this class. Another adjustment may be you might want to change low profile out for flak jacket, simply because he's playing Domination, and there are typically some grenades and things like that in Domination. So that's another thing that could be changed, but doesn't necessarily need to be changed. So I would consider this to be pretty much a perfect class. So getting into the gameplay, off the opening route here, he takes a very aggressive opening route. He jumps out into the open, and it is kind of surprising for the enemy team, but he's also exposing himself a lot. So he did manage to pick up that one kill, but now he's put himself in a situation that he just can't defend himself. He's got no cover, and he tried to get out of the situation, but it was just impossible. He got overrun. I am going to be skipping through this gameplay quite a bit just because I want to get to all the good parts, and it's a bit of a longer gameplay. So right here, he takes damage from a grenade, and then he comes right out into the open to challenge his enemy. Now, a lot of people do this. When you get damaged by a grenade like that, you have the initial blood spatter that appears on your screen, and that initial blood spatter kind of disappears quickly. But you are still technically hurt. So it kind of looks like, okay, I've healed up a little bit, and then you can go out and challenge. But at this point, he is still 1 to 2 shots away from death. And yet he's pushing out into the open where he knows there's going to be enemies, he knows he's going to get into a gunfight. And one thing to realize is it's going to take him 3 to 4 bullets to get a kill on an enemy at any of the ranges he'll be dealing with here, whereas now it's only going to take his enemy 1 to 2 bullets to kill him. So he never really had a chance pushing out into the open like this, and he should have been a little bit more patient, healed up a little bit, waited for some team support, and then made a push. Now, coming up right here is something I want to spend a little bit of time on. It's a common theme that we see throughout this video, and it has to do with his aiming technique. Now, you notice right there, he was kind of off target on the right-hand side of his target, and because of that, he lost the gunfight. He fired first, but he still lost the gunfight because he wasn't on target. Now, why is this? Well, first off, if we pause it right here, what you'll see is he's actually firing his gun already. He's not fully aimed down sight yet. He's in the process of aiming down sight, yet he's firing his gun. This is a great strategy at close range, but at this sort of range, I'd consider this to be like a mid to somewhat longer range. This is a really bad strategy. At close range, it's great because you have a great chance of hitting your target with your hip fire as you're coming into aiming down sight, and the person that's dealing damage instantly is the one that's usually going to win the gunfight. In this case, though, you have a very small chance of hitting your target with a hip fire as you're coming into aiming down sight, and you have a much better chance of making it harder to adjust your aim to get on target once you do get aim down sight if you start shooting first. So use this technique up close, but do not use it at long range. I don't recommend using this at a longer range. Now, skipping ahead a couple frames, we see the second issue, and this is he's quite a bit off target by the time he gets fully aimed down sight, yet he's already firing his gun, and he commits to continuing to fire his gun. And he's doing this while having to try to adjust his aim to get on target. Instead of messing around with this, why not take that extra maybe quarter of a second to just line up your shot and make sure you hit your first shot. If you hit your first shot, the other shots come easy. So just focus on that. It might take a little bit longer to start shooting, but it won't take nearly as long as it took him to actually get on target here. If you look really closely at his ammo count while he's shooting, it actually took him 11 bullets to get on target. That is a ton of time. That's actually over a full second, and a full second is a long time in a gunfight in Call of Duty. Moving ahead till actually his next gunfight, we see a very similar mistake. He aims down sight, and this time at least he doesn't fire while he's hip firing. He aims down sight completely before firing, but this is where he fires his first shot. he kind of panicked a little bit in my mind. He got aimed down sight, realized that enemy's there, he's got to start shooting back at his enemy, but he's nowhere close to being on target right now, and he has to kind of walk his aim up to be able to hit his target. And this time, it actually took him 8 shots before he hit his target, which again is a very long time in Call of Duty. That's more than enough time for his enemy to take his time to line up his shot and take those 4 shots to get a kill on him. So I really want to hammer this home in this video. Try to get on target before firing, especially at the mid to longer ranges. Up close, it's a little bit of a different story because you can use the hipfire to your advantage. The hipfire actually has a great chance of hitting up close, but at mid to long range, always try to make your first shot count. Now, I do realize he did win the gunfight, but I still stand behind what I said. The enemy had a ton of time to take shots at him. He was just a little bit on the slow side or his aim was off. Now, right here, I love that he used the bouncy capture. This is something that I've recommended in my How to Dominate Domination video. It's basically, if you have a flag that's right out in the open, there's not much cover, a lot of the times it's great to bounce up and down as you're capturing it because it's very difficult for an enemy to get on target very quickly when he basically comes around the corner to see you and he finally sees you. And usually it'll buy you enough time to actually get that flag captured even if you die immediately after. So coming up right here is something that relates to the aiming part that I was talking about before. But this is where he aims down sight. Now, as he comes around the corner, he knows he's going to be expecting enemies, and I like that. But look where he's aiming down sight. He immediately aims down sight before seeing any targets, and he's aiming in an area where it's impossible for an enemy to be. Or if an enemy is there, it's just because they're jumping through the air and he got lucky at that moment. Instead, I think he should have been aiming up higher towards the building. And the reason for this is when you aim down like this, it takes you a while to actually adjust your aim before you get on target to where your actual target is. Whereas if you center your target on your screen first, or at least more or less center your target on your screen, it doesn't have to be perfect, but pretty close is best. All you have to do is aim down sight, make your really fine adjustments, and then fire. And this is where a lot of people wonder how people are able to use the lower sensitivity ranges. There's a lot of people that I see that play on like a 20 sensitivity or just something like above a 10 sensitivity, and they wonder how it's even possible to snap between targets so quickly by playing on a low sensitivity. And this is how you do it. When you're not aiming down sight, you can actually turn your aim quite quickly. When you're aimed down sight though, if you have a lower sensitivity, it's very hard to move your aim across the entire map. So a great way to compensate for this while still having a lower sensitivity is to center the target on your screen first, take advantage of that higher sensitivity while hip firing, and then aim down sight once you get more or less on target, and then just make your fine adjustments, having your low sensitivity aid you to basically get onto your target very, very precisely and very quickly once you are aimed down sight. As he comes off spawn here, this is great map awareness and awareness of the lines of sight. Not initially here, but he realizes that as he strafes over here, he has great cover from this rooftop, and now he can challenge people that are across the way, and he has a much better chance of winning that gunfight. So I like that he moved over there. Didn't get any kills from it, but it is nice to notice the little things like that. Now right here is the highlight of the gameplay. We got a nice quad feed. This was great. He happened to catch those enemies off guard as they were pushing off the flag, and he just basically swept his aim around and was able to pick them all up. So great job on that one. Now skipping ahead a little bit again, you can see right here he's pushing onto the B flag, but he made a big mistake right here. He did manage to get his kill, but then of course he gets taken out. His mistake is map control. He didn't recognize that he had no team support as he pushed around this corner. He does have some players that are pushed up towards the A flag, but they are no use to him right now, and he's got a player that's probably 2 to 3 seconds behind him pushing towards the B flag as well. This player right now is useless to him. If he would have waited that 2 to 3 seconds for his teammate, or maybe even his 2 teammates, because there's another teammate behind the other teammate there, he would have waited maybe 3 to 5 seconds for his teammates to push up with him, they would have had a great chance at getting this B flag, and he probably wouldn't have died here. At least he would have had a much better chance of staying alive, because he would have had team support, and team support is very important. Instead, he essentially threw his life away here by jumping out right into the middle of the map on the B flag on his own. So unfortunately, we're running out of time in this gameplay. I've already spent too much time, but there's one more situation I want to talk about in this gameplay, and that is right here. He comes around the corner, he shoots this enemy in the side, doesn't finish his kill, and his enemy manages to get behind cover. Now what does he do? He backs off, which is nice because he's basically expecting his enemy to challenge, and as he's backing off, you can actually catch a glimpse of his enemy turning around and trying to challenge him, but then he gets overly aggressive and jumps straight back out the way he came. Now, this is where you just kind of have to think about what's going on in the enemy's head. This is something that some people never really consider, but it's something that you should always have in the back of your mind. What's going on in that player's head? You get shot by somebody in the side, you get away. What's the average player going to do? He's going to come back and try and challenge him by aiming straight where he expected that enemy to be, straight where he saw those shots coming from. So he'll be aiming at that piece of cover, waiting for you to come back out and challenge him. This is exactly what you do, and you basically just feed him a free kill. What could we have done differently in this situation that takes advantage of what the enemy player is thinking? Well, one option would be to try to challenge him from a different angle. So you could have pushed inside that small building by the A flag and tried to take him off guard by shooting him from a direction he didn't quite expect. Or you could have even jumped on the roof of that building and tried that. Or you could have maybe tried to back off and get a nice line of sight by jumping on top of something, or just jumping over that forklift to get a line of sight on him. Anything would have been better than jumping straight back out into the open with no cover. Another option that some people don't consider, but it's a great thing to really think about, is if you would have just ignored him completely and pushed back maybe towards the B flag and just ignored him, that player is now sitting there waiting for you to come out for, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds before he gets impatient, and you've just taken him out of the fight for 10 seconds without even killing him. This is a great technique that not a lot of people really think about. You can take an enemy out of the fight by simply ignoring him because he's going to be waiting for you. Maybe he'll even go searching for you after because he's wondering where you went. And you can be off somewhere else on the map doing important things for your team while he's tied up just looking for you. Alright, so that's all the time we have for today's video. If you guys would like to submit some gameplay for me to analyze in a future episode, then please feel free to send a link to an unlisted video. Keep in mind I'm looking for at least 720p quality. Send a link to that video to the email address below, and I will have a look at that and see if it's something that I want to analyze. Keep in mind, if you've already sent me a gameplay, there's still a chance it's going to be used. I do have a bunch kind of backlogged right now, but I'm always accepting new submissions as well. Keep in mind, I'm also looking for average to below average gameplay. I'm not really looking for super exceptional gameplay because it's a little bit harder to analyze the super exceptional gameplay because they're doing everything right and there's nothing really to point out that they're doing wrong. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.